Hi guys. So I wanted to talk today about my phone sex addiction, or former phone sex addiction. I don't have it anymore. I have other like similar addictions, I guess, or I have had since then. But this one finished quite a long time ago. But it was a really weird experience, and a weird time in my life. So I guess I was like 18 or something, and I was really depressed and lonely. And I like couldn't get like just like women didn't want to go out with me and stuff, and I was like really like miserable, and I didn't have any mates, and I was like, I guess, you know, a stereotypical kind of like, not that the term existed back then, but like incel or whatever you want to call it. And so then I'd always been intrigued, like even when I was a kid. I remember like seeing these like the first time I ever had a wank actually was to a phone sex advert in a newspaper. It was on the floor. The bathroom was being painted at my house, and it was on the floor, and I just was looking at it. It was like, you know, like 60p a minute or something, and it was like, I had a picture of something, 35p a minute, I think that was the going rate, and I had a picture of some lady on it. And I was just like, wow. And at the time, the idea of this was like, wow, like you can phone up and have phone sex. That's so like grown up and shit. And like, it just seemed crazy to me. It seemed like this like big thing. And this picture made me really horny. So I remember having a wank, and I was just like, what the fuck was that? Like, I was like, it was really a really weird experience for me. I was like, kind of like, it was just crazy, basically. And I remember it stank of paint in there because the room was being painted. Now, whenever I smell paint, I'm always like, it doesn't make me horny. I'm not horny for paint, but it just reminds me of that. It's really weird. It's a very vivid memory. I don't think that is why I later on in life started calling phone sex lines, but I was always intrigued by them. I always thought like, oh, when I'm older, I'll like call up loads of phone sex lines and visit loads of prostitutes and stuff. It was pretty funny, actually. Sorry to keep digressing, but I was remembering this the other day. Me and my friends in primary school, we used to have the most bizarre conversations about sex and like all the sex we were going to have when we were older. We were obsessed with Katie Price, who at the time was known as Jordan. We were obsessed with her, and we were obsessed with prostitutes. I think because we were playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto, which we shouldn't have been playing. And we were really obsessed with prostitutes because obviously, it, like, you know, when you're a kid and you play Grand Theft Auto, you get really horny for like the scenes where you have sex with prostitutes in the car, even though you can't see anything, as much as you try, like with the, you know. And I was remembering it the other day. Yeah, we were talking about like what we would do, and I remember I was telling my mates like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a setup in my house where we were really young. I should clarify, by the way, like we were like fucking 10 years old or something. I was talking about how I was gonna like have prostitutes upstairs, and I was gonna have sex with all the prostitutes, and then I was gonna like slide down the stairs. I would land with my dick in another This is really puerile nonsense, but we were just imagining these fucking ridiculous scenarios, and we thought our adult life was actually going to be like. And I guess in some sense, in terms of like prostitutes and stuff, my adult life kind of did become like this, sadly enough, at one point in time. But we just thought adult life was just like a playground of like shagging prostitutes and like women, and just everything was like going to be about tits, and that like somehow like Jordan would be there. And yeah, not really. It wasn't really, you know, hasn't turned out exactly the way we envisioned it. I still haven't had sex with Katie Price. I'm not sure I want to be honest, anymore. Anyway, yeah, so... so I'd always been intrigued by the idea, I guess the feeling of just like... It was just amazing me that was a thing that you could do. I remember I'd see it in movies, or like see adverts for escort agencies, and I was like, what the fuck? You can just like... You can just do that? It's crazy. And I guess I'll do a separate video about that, about all the fucking weird obsession I had with prostitutes. I didn't have an obsession with prostitutes, that sounds terrible. But I've used to frequent their establishments. So I was never obsessed with any of them. Don't worry, not like that. But I was addicted, I guess. Addicted is the right word. Yeah. Obsessed with prostitutes sounds a bit like something a serial killer would say. I was addicted to going to them. I was very addicted to phone sex as well. Anyway, but I'm talking about the phone sex now. Yeah. So I was on my own, and then I was just sort of started. You know, you have this like, I guess when you become an adult, as it were, not that I was. You get this feeling of like newfound freedom. Like I can fucking just buy like nachos for dinner, and I can just smoke weed indoors, and I can like fucking eat. I can like stay up till 7 a.m. and then wake up at 7 p.m. and I can like eat whatever I want, and I can seemingly call up phone sex lines and go to prostitutes. And so I was sort of like, I was thinking like, wow, you know, I guess it's like a feeling of power or control, like that maybe you don't have in other areas of your life. And you know, I wasn't also not at that point capable really of, you know, or willing even to contemplate the kind of human side of it, which I guess is, I mean, it's the same when we buy products and fucking things, you know, we don't really think that much about others when it comes to, you know, getting what we want for the most part. I'm not saying that's right, but it's just a fact. Anyway, so yeah, I had, it was this feeling, yeah, like, wow, I can just do that if I want to, like no one can really stop me, sort of. Little did I know. Anyway, yeah, so I started doing it, and and at the time I had a lot of issues, like really, like I was quite messed up. Like, I really was quite messed up. So I used to call a lot of like they were like MILF lines and stuff, and like mature ladies and shit. You know, you don't have to be fucking Sigmund Freud to figure out why. But I wanted, and I was usually, it wasn't just the sexual aspect. I wanted them a lot. I used to be obsessed with them like saying my name and to be like encouraging, and like it's fucking it's embarrassing to talk about, but whatever. I guess I wanted, really what I was after was not really, because I could just watch porn if I wanted to just have a wank. It was like I wanted the feeling of like the very, very minimal feeling of intimacy that you got from it, that I never really got from it anyway, but that was what I was looking for, was like, because I would just be like, I used to just wank so much, and I would get into states where I'd be like, I just can't do this anymore, it's just fake, it's just a screen. It was just driving me insane. Like I really, really, really wanted that feeling of like intimacy or whatever. I don't think that's quite the right word for it, but I don't know if there is a better one. And so yeah, I would kind of, it was definitely, I would like come and stuff, but it was like I wanted, I was looking for something that you can't get from a phone sex operator, basically. And and I have to say, they're not great at their job, generally speaking. Yeah, so I used to do it all the time, and sometimes people would be in the house, so I would just get really, it would be like 2 a.m, and I would just be like, you know, like whispering into the phone. I think sometimes then they would think I was like underage, even though I wasn't, and so they would just like hang up. And the annoying thing is, you go through to this fucking switchboard, and they deliberately make it take a really long time. And they're like, welcome to the hottest MILF sex line. So you're just like, yeah, come on, I've fucking heard it before. I've already, you know, you should have my number, fucking recognize it, you know, just put me through. And then they're like, we're now going to play you. And they start telling you all this shit, and you're just like, please. And it's already costing so much money. Needless to say, I didn't pay the phone bills. I'll get to that. But you go through these things. And I used to, there were certain ones, I guess if they weren't very good, they were never actively in a call, because there was some who were just like, even just having an okay voice and being a somewhat normal woman, they would be in very high demand. You would immediately want to talk to them, because a lot of these women sounded like they were like tranked out of their minds, or they were just like zoinked, like they just, or they just would like not really focusing on it, or they were like doing other things, you know. I think I've heard that a lot, like they just have a headset and they're just doing other shit, and like they're just like watching TV and stuff, which is sounds awful. Anyway, yeah, so I still remember some of that, because they each play a little message, and you you have to choose, you know, you press like 1 or whatever if you want to talk to them. And I remember some of that. I remember them like it was yesterday, and this was like 10 years ago or more. I can't get it out of my head. There was one. There was one where she did this like rhyme. And she was like, I don't remember all of it to be fair, but I remember it started with, I'm so horny. I'm so naughty. And if you give me a call or something, and every time I'd just be like, nope. Like, who the fuck wants to listen? It was just like, that's not sexy. Like, don't do fucking nursery rhymes, bro. And she would do that. And then there was another one. I remember she sounded like ethnic in some way. She had some kind of accent. It was hard to place it exactly. And she was just really, she just sounded so crazy. And she was like really breathy. And it would just be like, hello, and stuff. Like, every time I'd be like, ugh. But once in a while, when no one else was good on the line, I'd be like, maybe I'll select her, because you'd go round, there'd only be like 3 of them available. I never tried the so horny one. After like hours of calling this number, I never tried her one. Sometimes I would just get like a normal okay one. You know, there were times it was like I'd sort of get like roughly what I was after. This wasn't the only line I called. I mostly just called that line for sort of aforementioned, or at least implied reasons. I should say, I mean, well, not. I don't need to say, it's not important, but my tastes have kind of changed quite significantly as I've gotten older, and I'm not into that anymore. It's not really what I'm after. But anyway, yeah. So I would call them up a lot, and then the phone bills were starting to go up. And I didn't pay them. My dad used to get the bill. And at first they would be like £35 or like £40. And mine was meant to be like £12 a month, you know? And he was like, what the fuck is this? And I would lie. At first I could lie and say like, oh, I got on a call about a job, which was, yeah, that was not true at that time. I was really not looking for a job. And I was like, you know, I would just lie basically and just be like, oh, this happened or that happened. And I think for about a month or 2 months, you know, that worked. And then it just became too ridiculous. And he was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you know, what is this? And I was telling my friend about it. I was like, mate, I've been calling like phone sex lines and I don't know what to do. Like, my dad's freaking out. And he was like, just say it was for a scratch card. So I was like, okay, the scratch card. And I remember my dad would get really pissed off. And in my mind, I was always thinking, okay, so this is going to come out now. What's happening? And that to me was like, I was not in a family that was open about like sex, full stop, let alone like calling up fucking MILF phone sex lines, you know, to speak to mature ladies. So I would just like try and like, I just kept trying to like put it off. And every time he would get the bill, I'd be like, okay, I'll never do this again. Like, not to him, to myself. I was like, I will never do this again. This is just really bad. And this is going to be so... At the time, the idea of my family finding out about that was just like, now I wouldn't care. As long as I wasn't doing it with their money, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, you know, it's not a big deal. Or at least it's not... I don't care. I'm not like, you know... But... then the thought of that was like, it was like people finding out like the worst thing imaginable. Anyway, and for some reason, this is what I guess why I think about it a lot, and I find it bizarre, because for some reason that was not enough to stop me doing it, and I just had such poor impulse control, and I see it in other people. You know, when there's someone where you're just like, why are you doing this? Like, just stop, you know, and you get so angry with certain people in your life because you're just like, just stop. Like, this thing that you're doing, just stop doing it. You know it's bad. You know you shouldn't do it. Just stop. And I personally, I get so frustrated with people. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you? You know, like, why? And I must remember, really, like, that I was so much like that. Because, like, yeah, you just... I don't like saying about people they're not in control. I don't like this idea of addiction, there's like kind of two opposite extremes, and I don't like either of them, and I don't like the idea that you're just literally not in control. So you wouldn't say that if they like fucking raped a child or something. So like you are in control, like, but no, she's coming to ring the buzzer. Sorry. Sorry. I'm busy, Sarah. No, I was just waving. Bye. Sorry, she could see me sitting here speaking into a microphone, but I decided to ring the buzzer anyway. She probably thinks I just do this when I'm by myself and not doing anything. I just fucking sit here talking to myself like a fucking... Anyway, yeah, so I would like... I don't know, I just kept... I don't think it's right to say you don't have control. I had a choice, because if you say that, more importantly, forget the pedo example, but more importantly, if you say that to people, it's just, it makes them powerless, basically, and it's like, no, you have a sickness and you need to be treated and only other people can help you and you can't, and like that to me is a really, really, really bad way to think about yourself and others, and I don't like it. But yeah, there was an element of like, I didn't want, really, for the most part, most of the time when I wasn't like horny and depressed and lonely, I didn't want to do it. Anyway, the phone bills kept getting bigger, and I was kind of amazed that this was able to continue this long. Like, it got to the point where they were like, we had a £90 phone bill once, and the ones that were like £60 were quite regular. I come from quite a frugal family. We don't throw money as like quite. We're not a poor family. Well, actually, now we are a poor family. But in the past, we had money in our family, but we didn't throw it around willy nilly. Basically, like, it was quite a big deal to spend that much on a phone bill. And it got to, I remember it was £90 once, and he was just like, he would go berserk, understandably, like, I mean, kind of, I do feel like, like, I'm not fucking pointing fingers, it was my fault, and like, I very much doubt his dad ever had to deal with any, you know what I mean, like, but if it was my son, I guess, knowing the things I know now as like a more modern person, because like my dad is quite old, like he's from a very different generation. He's born in like I think he's born actually in the 1940s. So it's just a different world in terms of parenting. I think if it were my son, I'd like to think I would be not necessarily even more lenient, but more I wouldn't just flip out and then be like, right, that's that, let's hope that doesn't happen again. I don't think that's the smartest strategy, basically, innit? And I think it probably, whatever, but I'm not blaming him at all. Anyway, but yeah, he would just flip out, and I was like really scared of this, and then I would be like, oh my god, that was so bad, like, because he'd be like shouting at me about it, and I'd just be like, I just didn't know what to say. I couldn't say anything. And it seemed in a way I think he knew what it was. I must ask him one day. We don't really have that type of relationship, but I would like to ask him one day, like, did you know? I don't think he fucking cares anyway, but I felt like he knew, because he never fully was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this? Why? What are these numbers? He must have called one up and been like, ugh, just put the phone down. So he fucking, yeah, he would just go mad about it. And then I would just not really say anything. I'd just be like, I'm really sorry. And he'd be like, this is, you owe me this money. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll give you it from my fucking £50 a month job seekers allowance or whatever. And I would just go back downstairs and just whatever. And then I would just do it again. Yeah. And I just kept doing it. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember when it stopped or how it stopped. I think I gradually became less and less interested in it, partially because it was so crap. It was just never a good experience, and I was always disappointed. And I think I grew to, if it was really amazing or it was what I wanted, I probably would have taken a lot longer to stop. But it was bad. And It did go on a long time though, and there was a while after where I was just doing it less. I was doing it, I think, just about little enough to fly under the radar. A few months where it wasn't like it was before, so he was probably just relieved that it wasn't like that, and I would just do it a bit, kind of. And then I remember that I don't remember what stage of the addiction this was, but there's another time I called a different line, and this was just for more like it was just like, sexy women or whatever. It wasn't like a specific, And I was talking to this girl who was like roughly my age. I guess she was like 19, 20 or whatever. And their job is to make you feel like, like they're enjoying talking to you and like they're attracted to you and that you like sound sexy and that there's a mutual thing that's going on. And I didn't understand that. I also had this confusion, with prostitutes as well later in life. I don't remember the exact timeline, but not understanding like she has to say that, so this one woman, I was like, I just got really infatuated with her, and I thought we were having this and I was like, and I remember I stayed on the line for like hours and like came like a few times, and it was like really, it was one of the only times it was like a really enjoyable experience for me, and I thought that we'd like really, I was thinking like, this is going to be my girlfriend. We're going to meet in real life. And we're going to because she was giving like quite a good performance and shit. And I was like, saying to her at the end, I was like, I have to go now. Like, I can't afford this anymore because this is insane how long I spent on the line. But like, let's like exchange numbers. And she was like, oh, I can't. I'm really sorry. It's just that I'd lose my job. So I was like, okay, I'll give you my number, and then it's not your fault. But I'm gonna read my number out now, and then you don't have to, But it's not your fault if you can't lose your job because I'm just doing it. And she was like, right, and like all of it seemed like she was sort of reciprocating. And I read my number out, and and then for like weeks, every time I got a call from an unknown number, I was like, hello, and it was always just like some computer voice like, hi, we've heard you were in an accident recently, or something, just some bullshit spam call. And I was furious. I was just waiting on every time I got a text, anything, I was like, it's her, it's the love of my life. Needless to say, she didn't ever call. Fucking yeah, it just gradually fizzled out, basically. I've heard of people who spent a lot more than that, and it can bloody happen. They are seriously expensive, and just I guess it's just filling a hole for people, that for something they don't have in their lives. I'm pretty firmly of the belief that for most people, phone sex is not really that much about sex, or that the sex part is secondary. I really feel that way. It's, I don't know, in most of the experiences I've heard from people, that's been the case. It's been like they're looking for something a bit more than just sex, really. Which I don't think is the case for all addictions of this nature, but this one in particular, it's like you're talking to someone on the phone. That's something you want to do when you're lonely. You just want to hear another person's voice, and you want them to talk to you and to acknowledge you and give you some kind of attention. Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't think it's a as a job. I mean, because I know with prostitution, obviously, like with that job, it's like some people who literally don't want, like they haven't chosen to do it, which is fucking so horrible, and B, people who would just really rather not do it, but basically have like felt pressured by circumstance into doing it. And I don't think there's really a C. I don't think there's people who really like doing it. This day and age, maybe some independent escorts and stuff who are like part of this whole like sex positive thing. And, people have made like on Twitter like people have made like sex worker into a kind of category of like, it's almost like a minority group. It's almost a source of pride, or like being like they're like a kind of oppressed minority or something, and it's become now like I think some girls from quite good backgrounds will get into it because it feels like, oh, I'm like, I had to become a sex worker to pay the bills and stuff. And like some of them, there might be some level of like, they are just kind of choosing to do it. But for the most part, yeah, I think obviously being a prostitute is like not something that anybody really wants to do. For phone sex, it's like, I think it probably pays okay. And I'm sure there are people who are like, through circumstance, they can't really get a better job and they need the money. But like, I don't think it's quite the same as being a prostitute in that way. I don't know. My opinion on it is actually worthless, despite how much fucking money I spent on them. I didn't learn anything about that side of the job. You probably learn a lot more from fucking just Googling it or watching a documentary or something. But it's something that's not really talked about much. Anyway, yeah, that's all. I'll probably do a video on the prostitute thing soon. It's a bit more depressing, I guess. But yeah, if you guys have had any similar experiences, I'd be really interested to hear about them. Thanks as always for watching these videos. I really fucking appreciate that people enjoy them and get something out of them. It's great. Hope you guys are all doing well. Have a good day.